I'm a bit irked. I mean, I want Brexit. I want the country to do as well as anybody else does. And we're in this situation now where we hope Brexit works because that's the horse we've put our money on. But when the Prime Minister says we've made great strides, he doesn't really back it up with any examples. What great strides have we made, do you think?
Well, I mean, you don't need to apologise for coming across as negative, because you didn't come across as negative. Because, you know, I, like you and the viewers, I'm really ambitious for this country. You know, I think this is the greatest country in the world, and we've got to be doing so much better. Look, people voted for Brexit, so the key thing is to make Brexit work. The key thing is to make the various different elements of it work. Parts of it still haven't been fixed. There's changes that could be put in place for the deals that have been brought forward. But as well, we've just seen this report overnight, haven't we, which shows that the UK's economy is going to shrink. Other countries around the world aren't going to take this economic hammering that we're taking, and that means living standards are going to plummet again, where everyone's struggling already. People are already struggling with the price of the weekly shopping. Nothing works in the country at the moment. Everything's grinding to a halt. But that's because I would say 13 years of very poor economic management from the government. And you've got to invest in the jobs of the future. We've got to get people back to work. There's too many people out of work at the moment. I've put forward a plan to get those people back to work. So they're the things we've got to be doing to make people better off.
OK, well, we can talk more about whether or not the strikes will be going ahead under a Labour administration and, indeed, this IMF report that you're talking to in a moment. But just sticking with Brexit, I just wonder, I mean, we've heard definitely a softening of the position from Labour in recent weeks, definitely indicating a more soft Brexit than perhaps many Brexiteers would like to see if they were in power, a closer alignment with the European Union. We're seeing the polls showing a significant number of people. YouGov, 56% say they would vote Remain. Now, 1 in 6 Brexiteers would now vote Remain. I mean, some people will be suspicious that a Labour government would eventually actually want to rejoin the European Union.
No, the British people voted for Brexit. We've got to make Brexit work, because we've got to make it work so that we can grow our economy, so we can trade. I mean, there's lots of ways in which you grow your economy, but one of the key things you've got to do is export more. We've got great businesses in this country, great manufacturers, we've got great design companies doing really brilliant things. We've got to be selling that across the world, and I want to be banging the drum for Britain, not just in the European Union, but everywhere. So we've got to get better at how we trade, but we've also got to put in measures here as well to grow our economy, and one of those has got to be getting more people back to work. We've got lots of over 50s who've retired, who say that, or taken early retirement, who say they might go and do a job if there was flexible work options. Why are we not offering them? And we've got lots of younger people who are out of work for reasons of sickness at the moment, but actually a job would help them, because often this sickness they're on is things like anxiety or stress, and being in a work environment, if it's the right type of job, could help them get better as well, and it's good for their finances. So these are the measures we're talking about to grow our economy.
And I don't think the Chancellor would disagree with any of those measures. He's very keen to get people back to work, and we've heard him talk about that a lot in recent weeks.
Well, he's not.
You referenced
he's not implementing them, though, is he?
Well, there's a suggestion, isn't there, of
if he agrees with
break for the first 6 months for those over 50, for example?
If he agrees with my plans to get people back to work, he should implement them. And if he does implement them, I'll congratulate him in putting in place the Ashworth plan. And I'll come on GBNews and say, he's done the Ashworth plan, that's great.
OK, you're booked on that. But one thing, getting people back to work, at the moment we can't even keep people in work because they don't want to work. People feel that they're not appreciated, they feel they're underpaid, they're not resourced properly, and this is endemic now throughout the country. Firefighters, the latest to join in what's been happening.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see these strikes go ahead, which is, I think, what you're getting into there. I mean, you know, we've got the schools off tomorrow. I mean, I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old. They lost so much education under the pandemic. They were supposed to be given catch-up. They never were. They were supposed to be given all kinds of extra support. The government never introduced it. So parents are really worried about their children. But remember, all these strikes, whether it's the schools, whether it's the nurses, whether it's the paramedics, is a symptom of a bigger problem. And that's our economy is less prosperous, it's slowing down. and wages have been squeezed. And to fix these problems, you've got to put in a long-term, serious plan to grow your economy, to make us more prosperous, because we can do great things in this country. I strongly, strongly believe that. But in the immediate term, we've got 24 hours for ministers to get these unions around their table and negotiate and hammer out some form of agreement, because nobody wants to see all these strikes go ahead tomorrow.
It's interesting. So Keir Starmer said during the pandemic that he didn't think teachers should strike. He's not saying that now. Do you think teachers should be going on strike tomorrow? And should they be telling head teachers and parents what their plans are?
Well, I mean, in a lot of parts of the country they are. I mean, I've got an 11-year-old and a 9-year-old in school, and the head teachers have emailed us to explain what's going on.
OK, so what about Sir Keir Starmer's
plans in place
views?
in different parts of the country. Well, I mean, look, we've always said that people have a right to strike. We don't want the strikes to go ahead, but you do have a right to,
he didn't think so
to go
during
ahead.
the pandemic.
I mean, that happens in every... well, I mean, I didn't see those comments, but the key thing is, when we know that children have missed so much education in the pandemic, and the government never put in place all that catch-up, we don't want children to lose education again. So ministers have really got to try and do a deal, get the unions in today to negotiate so we can avoid these strikes in the education sector.